started. How is everything?
It's it's better. Still sore. We're grateful that the baby is good and everything. But still sore, dealing with neck back, issues. And I got hit on my side of the car, which I'm grateful for, man. It's amazing the things that if we were single, that we wouldn't even be grateful for. We would be looking at it like, "Whoa, it's me." But I'm like, man, like wifey was supposed to be passenger, and I was doing socials, and she was like, "I'll drive."
Yeah.
And sometimes I kick back on it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm appreciative of it, like, okay, cool. But this time I was like, sure. And we were going to get a U-Haul because we're actually in the process of moving. Like, it's so much going on in my life right now. Like
One
we're in
thing at a
like
time.
yeah, if I turn this around, you would see stuff all over. Like we were out last night. I literally just got back from doing stuff. And we were going to get the U-Haul. Turned from John R onto 11 Mile, and there's a gas station there first, and a street right behind it. And
Hmm.
she said she just didn't see us. She was trying to beat traffic to get onto oncoming traffic the other way, and just floored it in a Jeep. And we were in our electric car, which is not a big car. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, bro, I felt like I felt every inch of that grill. It caved kind of my Duren a little bit and such. And so I don't know how the car gets totaled and you walk away from stuff like that. Sometimes I always hear it. This is my second accident I've been in, and the first one the door didn't necessarily cave in. It was just a car that hit, and the most that I got was here, like a little scar right here.
Yeah.
And they had to sew it together because my head hit the windshield, the
Yeah.
side mirror. But this one, this is that's my side. If you can see it,
It's
yeah, it
it's
caved
just
the door.
blessings. Because you don't understand. Like when we shop for cars, we're the ones that look at the safety ratings and how many airbags does it have. So in a worst case scenario, what is it going to look like? Can you not even survive, but are you going to be okay? And it's so tough with that. But man, it's a blessing just to see, because I was so worried about it. And when you're like, she said, go and do the podcast. I'm like, man, no, 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 no. We're not, we're
Yeah,
not,
we
we're
was.
not doing that.
I'm grateful because it wasn't gonna happen, man. I know we wound up getting held overnight because she started going into contractions, having contractions, and we thought the baby was gonna come. Like they were like the baby's head is down. The contractions went from like 4 minutes to 3 minutes to 2 minutes, and we were sitting here like, oh my gosh, the baby's like 3 pounds. This is gonna create a whole new set of circumstances. But man, I'm telling you, this just having kids, being married, having more responsibilities as I get older, it just makes you grateful, and that's what I am today, man. I really am, and I'm thankful for you. I really am. Your words and basically telling me, bro, this is not how it's going this week. Because
No,
after
because
that, I was like, let me just rest. Because Woodward was like, chill for the day, chill for a couple days,
still for the week.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel energized this morning though, man. It's like I said, like the smile on my face is like I get to see my brother, man. Like that, it means something. So, and I know we gotta handle some less important matters today, but if it brings us together, um, I love it. I just do,
Hey,
man. So
let's rock. Let's rock. Let's make it
let's
happen.
ride. Well, look, Pistons fans. Now we're talking to you all. It was not a good week, but there's still things to cheer, So let me, and that's Mr. Rod Beard. We're gonna we gotta get that drum roll going soon. But first, man, welcome to the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Woodward Sports Network. It's your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid. And after this recording, I'm actually jumping right away with Jeff. For right now, I got water bottle Jeff, but
Water
jumping
bottle
on with
Jeff.
Jeff at the Morning Woodward show, and there might be some changes at the Morning Woodward show as well. You might see your boy on there just a little bit more, which would be actually pretty cool. So Jeff and I'll be back to making regular content again. But shout out to him. Make sure you guys tap in all the time when you can. But you guys know why we're really here. Pistons are they're like the dessert, the main course. Mr. Rod Beard. We took a week off, so this is gonna be another one of those bombastic drum rolls. Let's get you drum rolled in here, man. Hey, shout out and welcome to the Legend Detroit News Rod Beard. I hope
We
you
got
did justice.
we got snares, hi-hats, we got everybody going.
The toms, everything. I was even hitting the kick drum, man.
Little kick, little kick.
Man, first and foremost, how are you before we get into Rod's thoughts?
I am on vacation, so I am doing excellent right now. Needed a little bit of me time to de-stress and kind of recharge and get back together for this next little stretch of stuff in the Detroit area for the Lions push, for Michigan in the potential playoff push, all of that stuff. So I just needed a couple of days to kind of reset, recharge, and get back at it.
Bro, I forget sometimes. It's like I know a lot of people will know you and remember you from your time on the Pistons beat, time covering Michigan basketball. They'll think basketball, but you're the chief right now in terms of sports at Detroit News, and that means everything. And you're right. There's so much going on as it relates to the state of Michigan just in general, especially in the football world. Even Red Wings are doing things, man. It's a lot going on, and then the Tigers are going to start pulling together their free agency and their free agent, responsibilities and such. There's a lot going on, and then the Pistons. Even if people think there's nothing to pay attention to, they can't turn away. They can't look away. They gotta, man. I probably started the pot a little bit. I should have read the comments, and I shouldn't have invited the comments. Sometimes I have fun with it. Other times I'm just like, I should have listened to Rod. But man, we got to talk about some of the feelings, and it's all stemming from the Pistons. So take it away with Rod's thoughts first, brother.
I'm gonna be obvious. This team is not playing well right now, and I can see how people are really just people try to call you out. And somebody sent me a tweet from the draft. And I think I said, if I were Troy Weaver, my outgoing message would be, no, SGA and the number 5 pick are not enough to get Cade. And somebody threw it back at me like, bro, this take is terrible right now. And you don't know it in the moment. But I think the way that we looked at Cade and the way that we thought that Cade would change this team, I think it's still there, but I think the pieces around him are just not going together. It's like playing Tetris. Like you get the right block, but you turn it a little bit too much, and then you got another thing, and you got to create another. So it's just not clearing out the way that it's supposed to be. I think Cade is Cade, but I think the other pieces around him are just. Ugh. I mean, I feel good about Asar Thompson. I feel like he's one of the best players in this draft. And they did well by getting him at number 5. But just the way this whole glue and stuff is coming together is just, I would say it's not working, but I would say it's also taking longer to figure out. And that's what Troy Weaver's job is going to be, is to make this work. And there are people calling for Troy's job or saying Troy's on the hot seat and bloobity bloop, whatever. But I think it's just something in the recipe is not working right now. And to a degree, that is on Troy. Troy put this thing together, and if it's not working, that's something he's got to get together and fix. And that's where we are right now. Is this is not a team that's playing well. I won't say it's not a good team. It's a team that's not playing well.
Yep. And you said some interesting things there that I actually wanted to be able to talk about. I knew that, just with the given aspect of what's going on right now, you're right. There's going to be an aspect of the product on the floor that's on Troy. But as I've continued to say, the product on the floor is not necessarily mutually or exclusively tied to what the overall rebuild is going to be. The product on the floor is something that Troy said, hey, I've put it out there. I tried to bring in some vets to help the development of these young players and to be able to have them see improvements in wins and such. But much like the Houston Rockets, who went out after having a pretty trash season last season, they spent their cap space on a couple players for 4 years now, with Fred VanVleet getting a bag and then them giving Dillon Brooks a lot more than any of us believed he was worth. We sat here on it, and when we talked about the fact that, hey, you got to kind of take Dillon Brooks serious, we didn't say you can't sign him. We just said it'd be somewhere between 6 to 10 million if he was on this squad because of what he had shown prior. We knew that he could shoot threes. We knew he could bring defense. We knew he could be a pest in those things. They went and they paid him some money. In my opinion, them kind of going at it that way, in my opinion, for the Rockets, it made them a better team. It's going to give their fans something to try and cheer and root for. But I do not believe that those were championship moves. And I don't believe that they were added to a better young core than what the Pistons have. I believe that the Pistons made those two exact moves with a Cade Cunningham, to your point, that those players would be better for it, as well as Cade, but I still don't know if those are championship moves. If this squad, if Troy Weaver was set up to build just to say, hey, let's knock on the door of the eighth seed, we've talked about this a million times, brother. They could do that every single time, every year if they wanted to. They did that for 10 seasons in a row. We saw them either make the playoffs at the tail end of the going to work Pistons after everyone was gone and get swept. We saw them basically finish, ninth or 10th every year for a long time in between their next playoff appearance, in which they got swept with Stanley Johnson. And then we saw them reload again and then get swept again, even though the cap sheet was maxed out, even though they had dead money on the books, even though they had contracts that were 3 and 4 and 5 years long. That just, to me, wasn't a recipe of success. And I believe that even though people could say, well, look at the Houston Rockets, look what they did. Yeah, I think they just became the Detroit Pistons of the last 10 years. That's what I believe that they just became. You're going to put a FVV and a Dylan Brooks. I don't see that squad realistically becoming something unless they make some additional changes, some big changes. I don't see that squad becoming a championship caliber team. And I believe that most people out there, I won't say you will. You guys put in the comments if you believe as I do, or if you believe that those moves were championship caliber moves that were made. And we sat there and we dressed free agency over the summer. Free agency was something that when we looked at the pieces that most everybody wanted, in terms of like the contracts that some of those players got, including Kuzma, those weren't the deals that the Pistons were going to make at that point in time. Cam Johnson, to me, is not worth the $25 million a year that he's getting paid right now. Not on any level. And that was one of the players people said, well, you got to bring him in here. You got to bring him in here right now. You don't have to bring him in here right now. If you know that you're in this thing for the long haul of a rebuild, you run the risk, yes, of your product looking like this. And nobody's making any excuses for what the product looks like right now. The product looks bad. And the way that he intended it to look, it doesn't. And we talked about this. You can't come back next year depending on players that are going to be injured. You can't. They tried to run it back this year because they believed that those were one-offs. And they brought in a couple players. They got Bojan back, and the only of them that has proven that they're not injury prone is Cade Cunningham. Bojan is out, Monte Morris is out, Alec Burks has missed time, Jalen Duren with that ankle has missed a little bit of time as well. And those are your rotation pieces. Those are people that could start on this squad right now. That's going to make the product look bad, and Troy Weaver has to eat that. Nobody's making excuses there. But as it relates to what this team is actually going through, we talked about it in the summer, 7 days before free agency. Troy Weaver spoke to, and we've talked about John Nio, Mike Curtis, Omari Sankofa, and myself, and I think a couple others were around. I think Sean Windsor was there as well. And we asked him. People say, hey, where are the tough questions at? We asked him, Troy, what are you doing with this free agency? Where are you looking? Where's your head at? And he instantly gave us the full scope of what's going on. As hastily as people believe he traded Sadiq Bey for James Wiseman, it seemed like Troy was trying to learn from that aspect of that deal and say, you know what, let me actually see, because we had a coaching change. We got Asar Thompson, the wing that we believe we want, who, if there was Asar Thompson on the free agency market and Cam Johnson on the free agency market, they effectively picked Asar Thompson. That's effectively what happened to be their wing. And he's a tremendously cheaper player over the next 4 years than Cam Johnson. That's what they did. But what position was he? We all thought maybe he could play 4, maybe he could play 3. We've seen the man really playing the 2 through the 4 consistently, but more concentratedly the 2 through the 3. And his skill set is a lot more advanced than what the comments were saying when they first drafted him. That's why you got to kind of wait it out. Cade Cunningham, as it relates to Troy saying, let me assess what's going on this year. So when we actually do spend our cap, I hear people talking, oh, but he did spend the cap. He spent it on Joe Harris and Monte Morris. Expiring deals. He got paid to take on Joe Harris. It was either sit on the cap and do nothing and get no draft picks for it, or bring in Joe Harris, somebody you're not depending on, somebody you're not calling a splash, and you get a couple of draft picks for that to be able to better help this rebuild. Because if they're going to bring anybody else in here via acquisition, you're going to have to load. And he said he wants to make a splash in this little scrum that he did at the conclusion of Asard Thompson and Marcus Sasser's draft press conference 7 days before free agency. He let us all know no splash is coming this year. I want to see what this team can do under Monty Williams. I want to see how they do with a few of these kind of vet pieces that we do put around them. They basically, the guys in effectively replaced Rodney McGruder and Corey Joseph. That's what Joe Harris and Monte Morris effectively did. I believe that Magruder might have, who knows if he could serve better than Joe Harris, but I do believe that if Monte Morris is healthy, he is a tremendously better piece than Corey Joseph. That was the entire plan, to be able to come in and see these guys. And I don't believe that he intended for it to look like this. But again, we don't make excuses for it. It's the reason. This is what's going on, and you got to fix it. That's where he's at. And people say, well, how long do we got to wait for this plan? He said in the summer it's going to happen before next free agency or by next free agency. That means that between trade deadline and free agency, which is the now, that means he's not just assessing. That means he's also on the other flip side saying, hey, this is what we know we need now. They don't got to go much further to understand that. But in terms of the nuances of like certain people who sign contracts can't even be traded until when, like January sometime? Like I think after January 15th. Some players, some teams probably have high asking prices. Like sometimes the Pistons do. Those prices start to come down as you get closer to the trade deadline, and players and teams start to get a little bit more desperate to be moved or to be moved on from. That's
let me shoot some numbers at you. And we know this team isn't playing well. They rank 29th in turnovers, 17 a game. Last in fouls. So you're not playing good offense and you're not playing good defense because you're fouling more people. They are first in 2-point attempts and 25th in 3-point attempts. I'm sorry, 30th in 3-point attempts. So they're shooting more twos and the league worse in threes. We know by the style of play that the league is right now, that doesn't work. The other side of that, their opponents are shooting the second most number of threes in the league. So they're giving up more threes and they're not taking a lot of threes. If you're going to play the 3-and-2 game, unless you're shooting 70% from two, it's not going to happen. What are they shooting from two? 52%. Not good enough. That's just numbers to tell you what's going wrong with this thing. And free throws, 22nd in the league. So if you're going to shoot twos, you need to be getting to the free throw line with that. And they're not doing that either. So this is just a team that rebounds well. They are, 7th in the league in rebounding and 5th in blocks. Those are secondary sort of stats to tell you they're doing something, but they are not making baskets. Their 2-point percentage, I said, was 52%. 3-point percentage is 34%. You can't live like that and not play good defense and expect to win. But those are numbers to kind of back up what people are seeing and saying, oh, well, this team, blah, 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 blah. But this is just not working. And they've tried moving the roster around, doing some different things. But you made the point, too, about Saddiq Bey, that he's not lighting it up in Atlanta either. So I saw somebody post since the Pistons traded Saddiq and got James Wiseman, they're 4-30. Saddiq wasn't he's a bad player and we're trying to improve the roster with James Wiseman. Saddiq was we can't pay him what he's going to command on the market. And we're going to take a chance with James Wiseman. And if it doesn't work out, you know what? We get off of that Saddiq contract. And that's been a Troy Weaver fingerprint, is when it comes time to pay somebody, if they're not what you thought they were going to be and you think you're going to overpay in that market, you let them go and you take whatever you can from it. And even if James Wiseman does not work, they are not in a position to have to pay Saddiq's contract when they weren't ready for that.
Yep, that's true. That's true. And ultimately, I think that the thing to take away from this season is this. The incremental moves that were made to try and have incremental progress, because they were never going to go from where they were last year to playoffs this year. Those incremental moves, they just didn't work out. Now, like we all said, Troy's backed himself into a very, very pivotal corner and a very, very pivotal offseason. He's definitely done that. The pressure is on. I said on another pod, in terms of is the seat warm? Well, yeah, because based on what fans will do, based on the organization, he got a contract extension. They've committed to this plan, and they like the results so far. I tell people this all the time. The Pistons right now have a good young core. They actually have assets like the Cavs were able to trade to be able to get a Donovan Mitchell. They didn't have that before. They didn't have that during the first season that they started this. They didn't have that during the second season. You need good young assets to be able to jumpstart your actual rebuild. That's just a fact. They have no dead money on the books other than, I believe, Dwayne Dedman, who's about to fall off. They have a clean cap sheet, and they have no contracts over 2 years. Next, they have right now 8 rookie deal contract players in their rotation. That's what's going on right now. And next season, they have only, Bagley, Stewart, and Bojan who have deals next year over. I think Stewart's the only person who has a contract over 2 years. Bojan's 1 year, 2 years. So this year and next year. Bagley's is next year as well. And then the other 5 players on the roster, all rookie contract deals.
Bojan is this year, I thought.
With
Is
max cap
Bojan up
space.
this year?
Huh?
I thought Bojan was up this year.
No. When I was looking it up, it showed next season is his final year. And you can correct me on that, definitely.
So the other thing I was going to say too is I pointed out all those numbers to say they're doing this without the 3-point shooting is without Bojan and without Joe Harris. You think they will be last in the league in 3-point attempts if they have Bojan and Joe Harris? So they've changed the style that they're going to play based off these injuries. And those numbers bear that out. It shows that this isn't the team they thought they were going to be. They've just had to adjust to what they have because those guys are out.
And it's been bad. Like, there's no excuse. The 14 losses in a row, that's bad. Trust me, man. When I sat in that arena, for all the media, the fans, Pistons PR, the security guards, the attendants, the ushers, you could tell this hurt everybody. From Monty Williams walking in to seeing the players walk by the press conference room, down the tunnel, down the hallway, everybody was pissed. I didn't see anybody that was joyous, and you don't want to see that. I didn't see anybody, honestly, that had their heads hung low, but you could tell people were upset. And Isaiah Livers came to the table, and he stated, hey, we have to get back to playing physical. We got to get back to playing every position like we believe we have to. There's not an aspect of talent. There's not an aspect of just, we can go out there and we're young and we can be good. We got the fresh legs. No, you got to go out there and you got to play tough. The one thing I know that I've seen a dip in since the beginning of the season is what Duren said. He said, me and Stu came into the season. This was when they were 2-1, and people were like, "Yo, you guys are looking good defensively. What's the secret behind this?" He said, because we have this philosophy of don't let anyone feel comfortable. Everybody has to feel us who comes into this paint. We got to be touching people constantly. We got to make sure we got elbows and hands and this and that. And since Duren went out the first time, I've noticed a dip in that type of physicality. So
That's it.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, this one we're going to keep it short, sweet, and simple. About to jump on as well with Mr. Jeffrey Iafredi. But, Rod, any last words before I drum roll you out?
No, I we'll talk next week about this, but I'm not a big fan of the in-season tournament. It just didn't do anything for me. And maybe I have to wait and see what the quarterfinals and this knockout round looks like. But the regular rounds didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, me neither. If they keep it, I'm at least hoping they get some better brand appeal to it. I'm not really a big fan of the courts. Now, the Pistons Detroit court, their bad boys court, that's heat, flames, fire. But I'm with you on that one. But look, guys, definitely like, subscribe, leave your comments definitely down below. Tell us your straight up feelings about this thing. Honestly, man, put it in the comments. Want to be able to rap with you guys. Next week, probably have a little bit longer conversation. It's a little bit longer. But this week, wanted to be able to hit the steady points. Try and at least make sure you guys understand where we come from this, where we see it. And definitely cannot wait to be able to hear what you guys got to say as well. But you guys know what time it is. Thank you for tuning in to the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Woodward Sports Network. It's your boy Brandon Dent, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid. And let's get these drum rolls for Mr. Rod Beard going. Hey, yo, shout out, man, and thank you. Blessings to you, Rod. To the legend, Detroit News, Rod Beard. Have a good day, you guys.